Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about some of the fall camp updates from around the country. Definitely a lot of things going on, and Iowa had not a great performance from their quarterback in their spring scrimmage, which I'm sure a lot of you saw. But let's get into let's get into segment 5 here, and let's talk about recruiting and Georgia Tech being the team that is the talk of the town in recruiting right now. So let's get into this and let's break down a couple of commitments before we get into Georgia Tech. So CJ Jim Coeli is a very, very talented four-star safety that LSU just picked up. A huge pickup for them, 6'3", 210, a very, very talented, already college football built safety there. A very, very talented kid, and another reason why Corey Raymond was hired by this staff. A huge, huge player in the world of recruiting, and definitely someone that is going to at least put their back end in a better position from a talent perspective. Definitely going to add to that, and has already started with a really big time pickup there. Also, Philip Wright III has committed to LSU, a very talented 6', 170 wide receiver, runs a 4.3 240, a very, very talented kid, has a track offer from LSU as well, so Cortez Hankton's going to have plenty of fun with him, and definitely one of those things that as long as Cortez Hankton is in Baton Rouge, they're going to have a really good wide receiver class. I can almost promise you that, and I really love this pickup because I think it adds a certain element to this offense that has been missing a little bit. Obviously, Malik Neighbors did plenty of this, but having a speedster you can throw end arounds and that type of thing too obviously opens up an offense, and I think this is a fantastic pickup for them. Another wide receiver to watch is Isaiah Mosey, a very talented guy, four-star wide receiver. He has flipped his commitment from Oregon to Nebraska, a 6', 200-pound wide receiver. Definitely a very talented kid out of Missouri, so a little bit closer to home than he was going before. A huge flip for Nebraska, and one that is another decommitment for Oregon. Adds to Josiah Sharma that committed to Tennessee, and Deshaun Bram, a very talented tight end that committed to, Josiah Sharma committed to Texas, a very talented defensive lineman, and Deshaun Bram committed to Tennessee, a very talented tight end. So a couple of decommitments from Oregon. Definitely have to get back on track on the recruiting trail, but frankly, they gave themselves a little bit of leeway with the talent that they brought in the first couple of days in that cycle. So definitely something to watch there, but overall, I'm not super worried about Oregon on the recruiting trail right now. Jonte Gilbert is someone to watch, a very talented corner. He is committed to Georgia, 6'1", 187, a very lengthy, tall guy that can definitely make some plays. T-Rob Charvarius Robinson is making tons of big-time commitments on the as the DB coach at UGA. Definitely a huge pickup, one of the bigger pickups of the entire offseason when it comes to head coaching, or when it comes to position coaching, So a very talented coach, and he's bringing in very talented players. A huge pickup for them, and beat out some interesting teams. NC State, Georgia Tech, and UCF. So definitely a big time pickup there and one to watch as we head into the next couple of years for UGA. Kadarius Riddick is another talented back-end player, a safety, four-star that has flipped his commitment from UCF to USC. Now, earlier he flipped his commitment from Auburn to UCF, so there is a possibility that happens again, but this is a little bit further down the road. A very talented kid, definitely one that USC very much needs, and they continue to add to that back end. That is obviously DeAnton Lynn's kind of bread and butter, so not necessarily overly surprising, but definitely a very, very talented kid, and one that might just be called on to play immediately when he shows up on campus, frankly. Finally, let's get to the big-time commitment. Josh Petty, a five-star interior offensive lineman, has committed to Georgia Tech, and that might sound a little bit crazy, but that is actually what happened here. A 6'5", 265 interior offensive lineman from Roswell, Georgia, right around the Atlanta area. Not overly surprising there, but this is the second highest recruit Georgia Tech has ever gotten. That is absolutely insane. Calvin Johnson was number 1, so if he's anything like that, they have to feel pretty good about this one. And frankly, I think a lot of people are surprised by this, and I was a little bit surprised, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, Brent Key is a fantastic offensive line coach. That's his bread and butter. That's what he did in college. That's what he did at Alabama, and he did a great job doing it. So it's not overly surprising that an elite offensive lineman would want to play for an elite offensive lineman head coach. It's kind of like Travis Hunter wanting to go play for Dion at Jackson State. It might not make sense as a school. It makes sense from a head coaching perspective. So he's going to get a great coaching staff, a great education, obviously, and Georgia Tech is doing a really, really good job of selling what they have there. You know, it's not what Georgia is. It's never going to be what Georgia is because of some of the academic requirements and some of the different things that go into that there. But at the end of the day, Brent Key's message is working. And if it's working, then this could be a very, very interesting thing to watch over the next couple of cycles, because if they shut down Atlanta, if they do better work in Atlanta than they have done over the last couple of years, this can develop into a really good team pretty quickly. I promise you that. So definitely something to watch. But let's move over to 2026 real quick and break down some big-time commitments there. Cody Green is an offensive tackle, elite player in 2026. He is committed to Oregon. This is a big-time pickup for them. Obviously, that 2026 class is coming along very nicely for Oregon. They're number one in the country right now, and building up the trenches is really where Oregon does most of their work. They're building kind of that SEC roster out in the Pacific Northwest, and this is just another addition to that. So a huge pickup there. A long time till he has to sign, but definitely one to watch there. And then we have Keenan Britt, a very talented four-star edge rusher. He is committed to South Carolina, a huge pickup for this team, and frankly, the edge rushing recruitment has been incredible under Shane Beamer at South Carolina. They got Nick Harbor, who now is playing a little bit more wide receiver, but could easily move over to edge and be a monster. Dylan Stewart is an elite edge rusher that's going to be a freshman this upcoming year, and they're continuing rolling with Keenan Britt, a very good pickup here, and one that will definitely be a factor pretty much immediately when he steps on the field in Columbia. So one to watch there, but let's get back to a couple of scheduled commitments, a couple of intel as we head into this crazy month that's going to unfold in front of us. And I want to start with Christian Garrett. He is decommitted from Georgia, a very talented 6'4", 270 D lineman out of Bogart, Georgia, so right in that Athens area. A very talented top 5 D lineman in the 25 class, so definitely someone people want. And he's already gotten a crystal ball to Georgia Tech, so another one for Georgia Tech that they could be picking up that, frankly, they would not have a shot to pick up in other cycles. A big-time thing for them if they're able to close this one out, but they got a crystal ball from Steve Wiltfong, so you got to feel pretty good if you're Georgia Tech right about now. As for UGA losing this commitment, I think there are a number of things at play here. More than anything else, I think Elijah Griffin and Justice Terry might just be knocking on the door. And it's not to say that this kid isn't plenty talented and definitely can be a factor for Georgia in the future. But at the end of the day, when you have Elijah Griffin and Justice Terry on the sidelines, you might just want to make a little bit of room for them. I'm not saying that Christian Garrett was told to decommit, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if that's exactly what went down. But definitely something to watch. Anthony, definitely a couple on the list. I'm not sure if there's any that I have here, but I will absolutely do another one later in the week to break down a couple of the big-time commitments coming up. So don't necessarily have a Miami-Georgia battle, but I have a couple of Miami battles right here. Ben Hanks Jr. is someone to watch. He is down to three schools, a 6'1", 170 corner. He's from Miami, Florida, a top 70 recruit, top 10 corner in this upcoming class, so a very talented guy. It sounds like it's going to be Florida. He's down to all of the Florida schools, so not necessarily overly surprising there, but a big-time pickup for Florida if they can make this happen. Miami is still very much pushing for this one, but it sounds like Florida is definitely setting the pace here and likely will be the team that gets that commitment. Also, you have Jamie French, one to watch here. He is down to 4 schools, them being LSU, Texas, Miami, and Tennessee, all very, very good schools that are all very much in this thing, but at the end of the day, it seems like more and more buzz is going in the direction of Texas. I think Miami is definitely the team to watch here. They are pushing very, very hard, and there's plenty of time between now and the 30th to make this thing happen. But overall, I do think it's going to be the Longhorns. They just got another crystal ball, I believe, yesterday to pick him up, and if they can add him to Kalik Lockett, it's going to be a really, really good duo they build out there in Austin. So definitely a big-time commitment there to watch. And then you have a couple of offensive linemen and defensive linemen that I want you to watch over the next little bit. David Sanders Jr., a very, very talented kid, someone that sounds like he's going to make his decision here pretty soon. On Saturday at 12:30, he's going to make his decision, and a number of schools are in this one, whether it's Georgia, Nebraska, Ohio State, Tennessee. All of those teams are very much in this battle, and frankly, I don't know if anyone has a good idea of where this thing is going, but it sounds like Tennessee has somewhat of an inside track. I think Nebraska is not one to sleep on by any means. Ohio State is always willing to make some things happen in the recruiting trail, and Georgia is always going to be a problem. But right now, it looks like Tennessee might have the slight edge, and we're coming pretty close to that decision being made. So it could be that it totally changes by the time Saturday comes around, but right now, my pick would be Tennessee. Also, Eoisi Epinesa is someone I want to talk about. AJ Epinesa's brother, a very talented edge rusher who's now on the Bills. Well, he's got a 5-star brother who's going to be an absolute monster. It sounds like Utah and Miami have a lot of momentum in this one, or at least did throughout spring and summer. It sounds like Iowa's making up some ground, and I'm sure his brother AJ absolutely loves that. A very, very talented kid, one that if Iowa was able to pick up, would just be an absolute monster pretty much from day one, like his brother was. But at the end of the day, I think this one is totally wide open. I think a number of teams could make some things happen. Penn State is another one to watch here. If I had to make a pick, I'd probably pick one of those two teams from the get-go, Utah or Miami, but overall, this one still has a number of twists and turns that are going to come into play, no doubt about that. And then finally, you have Andrew Babalola, a very talented offensive lineman. It sounds like he wants to make a decision very soon. He's still kind of figuring out where he wants to go, but it sounds like he wants a decision in before his high school season starts, or at least gets really fully underway. So definitely one to watch over the next couple of weeks, maybe a week or two. Definitely one that could come through the pipes. And I think Michigan is the one that is sitting in really good shape here. They feel like they're in really good shape where the academics are a huge thing for him. So he got a crystal ball to Stanford a little bit ago. They've fallen off quite a bit in this recruitment, but Michigan's right there, right? A very, very good academic school, one that can definitely flaunt that over some other schools that are in this recruitment. I think Auburn and Oklahoma feel good about where they sit. Definitely some teams to watch, but I'd lean Michigan right now. And Stanford, as I talked about, has waned quite a bit in this recruitment. So definitely a thing to watch. Yeah, I think, Anthony, I think there's always a question, right? You never really know who to trust. You never want to say anything until it comes out of the kid's mouth, right? And all of the thing that, especially in the world of NIL, things change very quickly. I think we all understand that, but Steve Wiltfong tends to be at least the most right of the people that put on these predictions throughout the year, and frankly, I would love if they wouldn't put in predictions, just let the kid make his decision, but I'll use him for the time being. I do think he does a really, really good job for the most part. Obviously, there are those crazy circumstances like Travis Hunter choosing Jackson State that get a little bit off the walls, but overall, I think there are a number of things that Steve Wiltfong knows about the recruiting world that is really hard to know. So I do think I lean a little bit more towards him than really anyone else, but at the end of the day, it is just a prediction. It is just up in the air, and with the world of college football today, things can change on a dime. I think we all understand that. So definitely something to watch where I just gave you a lot of different tidbits. Maybe they're all wrong at the end of the day, but definitely will be something to watch as we head into this really crazy month of August in the recruiting world. But that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference for us. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all the social pages for all of the content and updates you could possibly need. We have really incredible people doing awesome work across every single sport you could possibly want. So definitely will be an incredible year of college football, but an incredible year for everything. So anything you need in the world of sports, come on over to GSMC and we have you totally covered. But thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.